Hello, hello, our friends. Welcome to Leadership Power Hour. We're having here opportunity to hear from Powerhouse Amanda, and we'll have a chance to hear from me what is happening right now, how we're creating a new mental health narrative. Amanda, how are you? How is everything in Atlanta?
Everything is great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Super thrilled to have you here with me and for us to tackle this new season of mental health. It seems like it's very in high demand and very popular topic, but yet we don't see much of great solutions, don't we, at the moment?
No, unfortunately. I mean, we're seeing sort of partial responses only so far. Yeah.
And we're ready to make some really dramatic change, aren't we? Something that's going to help so many people that are dealing with. And before we dive into that, what we're seeing today, the mental health conditions are affecting everyone, even if not personally, everyone is affected by people in their life, personally and professionally. And more than ever, we're seeing a lot of mental health issues in working environment. And a lot of people don't know how to handle that. And in the same time, personal, what is happening? We've seen a lot of judgment, a lot of comments that are really affecting others, and because of their anxiety, because of their depression, and as well as some mental health diagnosis. Do you see or hear similar experiences?
Yeah. I mean, this has been going on for what? I mean, for decades and decades and decades. And there's people. I mean, I just see Anthony J. James right now commenting. He's what is he saying?
Yes, he's saying looking for this, and it's so great for you, Anthony, to be here. I just want to say hello as well. We have a Matthew saying hello, Amanda. He's greeting you from Bermuda.
Matthew Kilkenny and Anthony J. James. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. And love what Anthony is doing and how he is using actually his voice, his influence around innovation and making transformation in that space, innovating businesses. And then essentially, we're doing this in different space related to something very specific. We're also hearing here from Linda, and Linda wants to say a very important message, and specifically around bullying. Linda, you are spot on.
I definitely want to speak to that, Linda, because I was very, very badly bullied when I was younger. And oh, Linda from Minnesota. Yeah, Linda. Yeah, I love Linda. I also want to say that Matthew Kilkenny is committed to transforming the world of finance so that everyone can live in financial freedom. And that is via different types of financial structures, such as cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFT. He's really committed to making sure that every global citizen on this planet can experience financial freedom. And Linda, about that topic of bullying, can we please speak about that? Because that is something that I will share personally. I experienced when I was very young. I spoke about it in an article that I posted to my LinkedIn page today. It was an article that Shout Out Atlanta did on me, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you, Mike Band from Shout Out Atlanta, for doing a story on me. I'm very grateful. And so just my heart is full of gratitude for the fact that you gave me a platform to be able to share my story. And part of that is that I was very badly bullied in grade 6 and grade 7. And the people that stuck up for me when I was that age are my friends to this day. And we still speak about those things and we talk about it. And it was one of the things that I brought into my adult life as something that I knew that I never wanted. I didn't want any other children to ever have to experience that. And even though I'm not a teacher, I don't teach at schools or things like that. Part of, for me personally, why I became a mental health advocate is because what I personally experienced. It made me want to ensure that no one else had to go through that. It's an awful experience being bullied by people and not feeling like you belong,
That is powerful, Sharon. Thank you for telling us that, because it's interesting. On the flip side, I was advocate for everybody that's been bullied even decades ago in environments where we have a lot of high diverse children and young adults. that did not know how to deal properly with the diversity, how they did not know how to deal with immigrants, with refugees, with people actually that experience severe trauma, and they end up being part of their school system and sitting next to them, but yet looking different, acting different, dressing different, and as a result, sadly, start to receive the very surprising types of behavior where bullying became almost norm and expected. And through those interventions in school and with educators and trying to figure out with different reforms and opportunities to speak with youth in wide range of groups all the way to universities, but also with parents, because I believe everything starts at home. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. It all starts at home, but I don't just think it's parents. And the reason for, I agree, Rob, absolutely no tolerance for bullying of any type at any age. That's from Rob Polon. You know, yeah, mental health is essential for leading a happy life. Great topic to talk about. Thank you, LinkedIn user. I think it's at home, but also too, I want to say that it working with people working with parents, educators, and law enforcement, and people that are policymakers and with government leaders, I see that everybody's playing a part in this, and I see that you know, for instance, I have an example. There's a woman named Kate Basha. She's the president of the National Incarceration Association. Her son Daniel, who passed away last year, he was 30 years old. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. And Kate comes from a very affluent neighborhood in Atlanta. And what happened with her and her son wasn't something that she thought she would ever have to deal with. As a result of an injury, he became addicted to pain medication, which led to other things. And something that Kate shared with me in the documentary that she's in the documentary that I'm directing, is she shared with me that as a parent, she only knew so much of what was going on, but she really, really wanted to have support and help from also the people who were teaching Daniel in school every day, and from her community. And she felt that when all of these things happened with Daniel, she wasn't like she was trying to push the blame on his teachers or the community. It was that she realized that for any parent to be able to know exactly what's going on with their child without getting support from their educators and the teachers that teach them every day, who also witness their behavior in class, and also from community members, it's almost like, yes, it starts with family, but I feel like more people have to be involved to want to make sure that every child is going to succeed. Families need support.
Absolutely, they do. What we mean, and how is important. Everything starts in family because with communication. Sadly, we don't have the luxury for a long period of time to have the right conversations and dialogue that needs to happen for a wide range of reasons: time, availability, skill set. And a lot of things go undetected or not necessarily seen. Every case is different, right? But if we have more communications in family, in education, at work, and right now we're seeing plethora of issues too, because lack of safety, lack of understanding, lack of understanding other person and meeting them in the middle or meeting them where they are and showing the level of compassion that so many people are seeking instead of the judgment and labeling. I think one of the major issues right now that we're sadly seeing is people are shutting down to share where they're at because they're being misjudged and be misunderstood all the time.
I know. And I want to actually mention something that is very powerful, something that has helped myself. And I'm not sure if it's helped you, Izabela, but there have been some very courageous people here on LinkedIn that have spoken very openly about their own mental health struggles and the immense amount of courage it takes. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at Linda's comment right now. Looking for help, hurt people, hurt others. Yes, and looking for help. Yeah. I think that the more courage we have to speak about the things that we're dealing with, the more that people are going to feel safe to come forward with their own things.
Yes.
Well, I want to just shout out people on LinkedIn that have done that. There's actually Blake Woolwine is one of those people that comes to mind. Blake has been very vocal about mental health and things that he's personally dealt with. And I admire, honor, and respect his courage to really get out there and speak about it and not be afraid. I think that we are so conditioned to believe that mental health is something separate from overall health, and something Navin Goyal actually brought up to me the other day when I was posting about something about mental health, is he was saying that it's not just mental health, it's overall health. But for some reason in society, what we've done is we've separated the two. And so someone that has a mental health challenge or issue that they're dealing with is somehow seen as different than if someone who's got cancer. And so all of a sudden we have all of this, compassion for people who have cancer, which we should. I'm not saying we should not. 100% yes. However, don't people who have mental health illnesses deserve the same amount of compassion?
If not even more and more understanding. That's exactly why we're having these conversations, because when we know when it's going on with someone, then we can be trained and educated how to interact, how to deal with that, instead of shutting down, shying away, turn it away, frankly, when people need the most. We're still seeing so much stigma. We're still seeing so much discrimination. We're seeing so much human rights violations against people with mental health illnesses across the world, Amanda, right? And this is unfortunately widespread concern and issue. We're seeing unprecedented types of behavior that I believe COVID just scratched the surface. It did not necessarily put us out there before because it did not exist and contributed everything related to COVID. But I believe it just opened a Pandora box to really show where we're vulnerable and where we need actually spending most time. And as you know, Amanda, I advocate in working environments specifically because so many people spend hours as kids spend hours in school instead of in their homes, right? Then they come do a little bit of homework, or they come have a dinner and go to sleep and then goes to the next day. So you spend so much time with peers in environment. And right now, either it's virtual and more becoming hybrid in person, that certain symptoms should be easily detected. And you're totally right, spoke about it, and as a result, also addressed in proper way. Because when we're aware, we can come up with solution. But when we're not, we can't tap into community. We can't tap into that support and opportunity to foster that well-being. So we're seeing here something that also Matthew is sharing about how he's focused on financial support. And interestingly, Matthew, one connection, if you don't mind, Amanda, I'm just going to quickly comment here, is that because of stressors and pain point and anxiety due to social economic issues that we're facing today, a lot of people are stressed because of financial needs. And that stressors are reflecting in all kinds of behavior that are showing symptomatic mental issues. Wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely. And one thing Matthew Kilkenny pointed out, which is so important, is that he's saying that the parents that are going to work, they're going to work every day to take care of their families, and they come home, they're stressed out, they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're working 5 to 7 days a week. I know that's what was going on with my dad when he first started his business when I was a teenager. I never saw him. And so when he came home, he had very little left to offer, very little energetically. And what Matthew was just saying is that, something to the effect of, we need some childcare that is available globally that people don't have to pay for. So it's like, how do we implement a system that where childcare professionals can get paid a good living? I'm not talking about people having to volunteer and the rest of it, because that's the thing. People need to be able to be paid a good living to do a great job like that and be involved in supporting the children, so that they're also supporting the families. That's what I meant before when I was saying it's like the families are doing what they can, and there has to be community involvement as well. And the thing is that not everyone can afford to have effective childcare services or effective childcare support. So how can we make that available for everyone? Because I think parents need help. My mom was 19 when I was born. My dad was 21. they didn't have, I mean, they needed help, you know?
And what's interesting, I love what you're raising here, but how also important is to have provision that everybody can get help. How many people, even in this country, let alone other parts of the world, cannot afford to receive mental health assistance? That is the scary part. Knowing that you need, and then also not being able to be supported, navigated through the system so that you can get help and also different outcomes so that you can get better or you can get in opportunities to provide for your family and be as independent as much as possible. So we're also hearing here from Linda. I love this beautiful interaction by so many of you. So it's very important to also see what happened during the 2nd grade to 9th grade as an immigrant. And she felt unsafe. I'm sorry to hear that, because that's arena where I spent a lot of times, and I recognize that. And just because there was no much of the trust and genuine welcome and in proper integration, and everything usually happens reactive on ad hoc, we miss the opportunity to connect with one another, and as a result feel that we can trust the system or environment or school to share the problems and issues we're having. And a lot of those things get completely unrecognized. And we have a great opportunity, yes, to make a huge difference and importance early on with the children. A lot of changes needs to happen. And I know that US is trying, Europe is trying, and other parts of the world are trying too. So speaking of all of those changes, Amanda, we're definitely tackling a lot. My question is, we're seeing a lot of pressure, expectations, a lot of assumptions, a lot of fears, a lot of ambiguities, right? It's like, how do we navigate that? And one of the things that both of us are seeing as much needed outcome is to transform mental health itself, and then also transform mental health care. What are your thoughts?
Well, we have to start where we are, first of all. So we start where we are. I've been working in media for the majority of my life. So I start where I am. And that's the vehicle that I can use to start transforming language, the language that we use in media around mental health. So it's really transforming. It's a paradigm shift in the narratives that we create in media, which perpetuates the ongoing biases, the judgments, the opinions that we have about mental health, mental illness, etc. So that's my responsibility and my accountability. And I think that, and I've said this before, each one of us is an influencer to some extent, because we're influencing anyone. We're influencing someone in our family, we're influencing a colleague, a friend, whoever. And I think that it's important for us to do deep listening when it comes to subjects like this, because there is such a huge reaction to whatever we say. There's a gigantic reaction and result to what can happen. I mean, people can literally go out and commit suicide because of something they're watching or they're listening to or they're hearing. And that is a very big concern that I have, especially for the younger generations, people that are listening to certain narratives and are not perhaps getting the whole story, or they're not just getting the support that they need in these supportive environments. So how do we, Izabela, how are we going to get these support systems out to the masses? That's what I want. Because if you go on Google right now and you Google, and we list this in some of our posts, all of the resources people can have. You pick up the phone. If you feel suicidal, you call this number, and people will speak to you and ask you what you're going through. And those are very, very helpful resources to have in place. I just think that there's not enough. We need more. And so that's something that we need to look at. We need to look at, first of all, effective access to these resources, because not everyone has access to them. That's the truth. And the second is, how do we implement more? How do we how do we guide government funding? How do we fight for that in a policy change to guide funding
Mhm.
to that area? Because that right there is a systemic shift. And we have to look at not just the band-aids that we're doing and the services we're providing, but looking at if we need more of those services, we have to start guiding some of that government funding into those resources to be able to make that available to more people.
Mm. We're seeing obviously tremendous, and I love what you said. With every action, it's a responsibility there, specifically when you have platform, however small or big that might be, and a reach. And as you said, we don't know how someone will interpret something, what will trigger them, but if we can be part of solution instead of the problem and just keep highlighting the problem, that could really be very meaningful. But then again, as you mentioned, that is also not enough. We have to look at how we can make a tremendous transformation that's going to give sustainability, something that's going to be able to be sustained over a period of time, because these issues are not going to go away. And as a result, we have to really look at how we're using our voices, how we're using in general community where we're at, and with community that we have to not only change the policies also, but offer alternative. Because how do we integrate a lot of these components? One of the examples why I'm bringing this up is a lot of large companies are finally realizing who is their biggest asset by default, and took them so long to shift the mindset to realize it's not technology, it's not their buildings and real estate and everything else and brand alone, because that doesn't mean anything if you don't have workforce that's going to help you to sustain it. So investing at their biggest asset for their people, we're seeing well-being programs dramatically changing and different point of entry, not only for their talent, for their teams, but also for their families. And that is a huge opportunity for corporations to also interact with nonprofit sector and government sector and coming and uniting together. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think it's going to take every single person that you listed there is part of the system. And every single person that's listed there is either going to be part of that solution or part of the problem persisting. And a lot of people just want to resist that this even is going on. And as we know, what we resist persists. That's the way it works. So it's what can we do to really start shifting things, not just by having these live talks, but like really start shifting things that are root cause. Partial responses are wonderful and they're needed. And many people are creating those partial responses. I think that, in my personal opinion, that in order for this to cause real change, we're going to have to start looking at how we can impact policy in this area. And until we start looking at that, this what we're doing right here is going to be another partial response to an ever-growing issue where people are committing suicide. So how can you and I affect policy change by utilizing this live that we're doing every Thursday night as a launching ground to affect that change? One of the ways I think that we can start doing that is we have got to start co-creating new narratives and new conversations with people that are experienced medical health professionals, but just as importantly, people who have also experienced mental health challenges, because every single person matters in this system and every single person has a voice. And sometimes I think that we look to mental health professionals as them being the only ones that have the answers. But
Yes.
for me, I believe in the way that I have been trained is that we work with everyone along that system and we work together as a community to come up with the solutions together because we're all involved in that system. We all play a part in that system. So anyone who has ever experienced a mental health illness, a mental health challenge, is their voice is equally as powerful and as important in creating that policy change as are the mental health professionals. And we need to start working together as a team. and we need to see each other as equals, and not that like I'm your doctor and I'm going to now help you. How about we look at it that that patient is also going to help you as the doctor?
Mm. Wow, you are bringing a lot of great points here, and I cannot agree with you because we don't want to offer partial solution. And what's beautiful is because this is going to allow us to bring the guests from different walks, from different parts, right? Not only from providers, but also the ones from government, as well as corporations and nonprofits and everything in between, to really share their perspective, because we're seeing a lot of shifts and changes that are being ignored. And as James pointed out, lived experiences cannot be ignored, and it's those are the most powerful. Those stories, Anthony, you spot on, are the most powerful stories that move the needle in right direction, and we have to have them, more of them, and as a result create that amazing movement, Amanda, that you were talking about, because then it's very hard to ignore the masses, right? When the movement is there, and when people decide this is enough, but this environment that is being created in this movement, as you mentioned, has the key success ingredients, which is not only listening, identifying right problems, but offering opportunity to come up with solutions with inclusion and with opportunity for people to partake, and also their voices to be heard. That is huge.
Because everybody is a stakeholder in this system. And just like AJ said, there is nothing more important than lived experience. And I think that we don't include everyone along this system as an equal stakeholder, and yet we all are. We're all an equal stakeholder in this system. And so it's like, I can give you an example. When one of my colleagues was working in Africa, she was working in the area of healthcare, and specifically in the area of HIV and AIDS. And in order for her to create a systemic shift in what was happening in the area of HIV and AIDS in Africa at that time, she had to look at every single person that was involved in that system that was perpetuating the HIV and AIDS issue and the pandemic, and looking at why and the stigma that continued to perpetuate in that specific area of HIV and AIDS. And so she literally had to bring together heads of government, religious leaders, wives, husbands, sex workers, healthcare workers. Everyone has to come together because everyone plays a part of that system. And if we only look to the decision makers or the authority figures in this instance, that would be mental health professionals and doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and we're not also including the voices of those who are dealing with mental health or mental illness, and all the stakeholders along the way, then we're never going to address the system as a whole. It's going to be partial responses all the time.
I love, again, distinction between partial responses and why they're ineffective, and then also opportunity to create a holistic response and also inclusive response and solutions together. Because we have so many smart people just in our circles, Amanda, right? How many bright, smart, capable, skilled experts in their own niche. Imagine when everybody feels like they have their own little contribution or place to partake in it, where we're going to end.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many great people. There's so many great people that we can co-create these conversations with everyone. And there's Linda, to feel like they are heard. We are all interdependent of each other. We need to educate the clients, patients of their right, and the leaders, the people, make them who they are, teach the people their worth. Yes, Linda, you nailed it. You nailed it. You know, while we are all very unique, and we are all very, very much connected. And there is a real sense of that I think that we've lost, and that is the interconnectedness and the interdependence that we all have with each other. And that is such an important thing that we can't lose, because that really is what it's like. What was it? I can't remember who said it. I'm having a brain fog moment right now, but was it was it Malcolm X who said that, I can't remember right now. I wish I could, but it's just something that it's so important that while we recognize our uniqueness and our diversity, that we don't lose sight of the interconnectedness that we have. Because
Yes.
by knowing that we're all interconnected that way is knowing that we can always come from that heart space of dignity and compassion for all. It's for ourselves and it's for everyone too. So it's like we deserve it as much as everyone deserves that. And
Absolutely.
and Linda, you bringing that up right now is just, it's so important. It's so very important to really get present back to that unity that we do share. It's beautiful.
And from that unity, it is also important to really draw the latest evidences that are available to showcase those beautiful examples of things, how they're done well, what those good practices look like, what it looks like in their community or their society, and then what is good to replicate, what is good to actually jump in and instead of maybe starting everything from scratch. No, it's like, oh my God, this is working, let's build upon this further. And this is where again massive collaboration comes in place, because we don't even know, many people can't even imagine what is possible. And if we don't deep dive, we're not going to never know what's that possibility looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because we can deepen the value and commitment to give to mental health. And this is something that Amanda and I are doing right now. And everybody else's things are just going to create a more and more awareness. How do we continue to do that? And as Amanda mentioned, where we're at, leveraging tools and communities that we have. I love that she brought media and how much comes responsibility with that, but also great opportunity to disseminate quality of content related to issues that every single individual on this planet Earth is affected in one way or another. If not directly, then indirectly through family members or kids in school or someone in a working environment. Nobody is exempt of reach and issues or problems or complexities related to mental health. Every single individual on this planet in one way or another experience some version of anxiety, experience some version of either depression, depending of their age and circumstances, because life is not necessarily smooth sailing and it's easy, no matter what status or country condition you live in. It's just a matter also what kind of level of support, understanding you have, and further personal and professional development. And we can't forget that foundation, if it's not there for so many, needs to be established and needs to also be supported.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just going to say that I remember watching the filmmaker that you're working with, and I think it's vital that we speak about to what's happening with head injuries, and how that's contributing to mental health. I mean, there's just this topic is so huge, and there's so many things to cover. Yes, everyone needs to feel included. Absolutely. Everyone is going to be included in this conversation. And Matthew Kilkenny says, in our interconnectedness, we should all hurt when we see a fellow soul in pain and suffering. Yes, yes, please. Yes, yes, yes. The level of compassion in our hearts when we walk by someone, how do we feel? How can we develop more compassion? And I know many people like to use the word empathy, and that's fine. How can we develop more empathy, more compassion for each other, and not just for those closest to us, not just for our families and our friends, but for strangers, people that we don't know? How can we develop a compassion and empathy, a level of that for global change?
And I love what Joe Serio just shared here, who is a brilliant mind. And then also that he pointed out exactly the grounds for already existing mental health ground on the humanity level, and how do we strengthen those relationships? How do we express exactly compassion, empathy, everything you just said? You guys are echoing each other, and I cannot wait for you guys to meet. But it's also a great opportunity to also, as you pointed out, show similarities, because this is the very excellent point. We're dwelling so much on differences so that we can depict and judge and quickly put the end of possibility of something that can be truly beautiful, meaningful. And sometimes because we fear, sometimes because we don't know better, sometimes we just don't care. And when we don't care, we risk so many things for so many individuals. So brilliant. Thank you so much, Joe, for sharing that. And then we also having this, providing empathy will make a biggest difference. I cannot agree. And one interesting piece I want to share quickly here, if you don't mind, Amanda, a story of Dalai Lama and Big Epiphany that I share with you.
Yeah.
I used to rehabilitate genocide, torture, war trauma, human trafficking, rape victims, people that are being through worst possible human atrocities on planet Earth for over 2 decades, guys, with over 120 countries, very closely, intimately, knowing countries, conditions, the languages, the music, the traditions, suburbs, the neighborhoods, remote rural area. I felt like I never experienced so profoundly, deeply the world through the lens of these beautiful rituals of verbal and nonverbal communication, because we connected no matter of the age, no matter of the background, no matter of the language. Frankly, there was so much unverbal understanding and beauty and ritual of sharing tea or coffee, or just sitting in each other's presence in silence and looking deeply, profoundly each other's eyes, and then on the end receive the hug or thank you and nod, things that just were profoundly, beautifully connecting us. So what happened is, took me till 2021 to be in presence and hear and experience during an event that happened in Denver at University of Denver, where Dalai Lama spoke. When he said at that time, how many decades ago, how important it is to teach younger generation about empathy, about compassion, and about the kindness. So if you look at Dalai Lama's work, you go back and you will see how long he's preaching all of those things, right? So they're not just the trends that everybody is now emphasizing, that finally corporations catch on and allow to even consider kindness as a part of, language and internal way and pedigree of talent and teams, because used to be, considered kind of like a spiritual practice. We involved. But Dalai Lama said something powerful that really hit me. I thought we were all born with kindness, with compassion and empathy. And those are the skills that are actually being taught. They're not necessarily something that we're born with. And when he emphasized then, if we just change those 3 things, everything else would dramatically change.
Those are universal values. And that's how he operates. He operates from universal values. And if we can have that for ourselves and all others, the world would look much different. I mean, that's so beautiful, Isabel. I love that, because I know what a difference I know what an impact that had on you, because we've spoken about that on the phone, and I can only imagine. I mean, it would have had the same impact on me had I been there. Definitely.
The thing that was down to me, and I was like, I'm working with so many people. I grew up as a little girl with empathy, compassion, and kindness. So to me, from my perspective, was a blind spot, because I thought all of us have that already in us. And reality is not. And then you realize how blessed you are, no matter what happened afterwards, how much that also shaped the journey, right? And how blessed you were, Amanda, despite a painful journey you've been through, that you had that beautifully developed compassion, kindness within yourself, and empathy. And as a result, that's why you're doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, I've learned. Yes. I've learned. that experience you had with Dalai Lama, even though I wasn't with this person in person, like you were, Thich Nhat Hanh is someone that I have learned a great deal from. And it's someone that I go back to day after day and just read, the things that he's put out there into the world. And he's had a profound, profound impact on my life and the way that I think and and my heart, as well as the mentors and the people that I've been fortunate enough to work with that have taken me under their wing and have, developed me as a leader. But it's if we could all have. Oh, Matthew Kilkenny is saying in Thailand, the teenagers are sent away to a monastery to learn to do this. I saw how wonderful this was. Right. Exactly. That's exact. You know what, Matthew? I remember, I didn't see the teenagers, but I remember going to the Buddhist monasteries in Thailand when I lived there. And my God, that was one of the most incredible experiences, and meditating with the monks. And I mean, you don't get too close, but you can meditate with them. And it is this incredibly moving. I mean, you feel it all throughout your body. I did. It was, and they're all chanting as well, and it was just this moving experience. But I did just want to say something that Joe brought up, and Joe was Izabela, that's your friend Joe, right?
Yes.
Something Joe brought up, which was, it really resonated deeply with me, is that we are more alike than we are different, and there is already existing mutual ground, humanity, on which to strengthen relationships, compassion, and empathy. And Joe, I just wanted to say that I agree with you 1,000% that the similarities are far deeper. And in my personal opinion, I think that we've gone in one direction very deeply, and that is really focusing on our differences. And that is beautiful, because again, we are all very unique, and this beautiful tapestry in the world of our uniqueness is what makes the world such a beautiful place. However, I do think that within some of those conversations, there is something happening in some of those conversations, and that is a bit of a sense of divide. And I want to really, if it's my commitment, that as a media professional, that everything I create is creating, is not doing that, is creating a unified stance with humanity, and also being an ecocentrist, which means that I don't believe that humans are the top, in this world. I believe that we share this planet with animals, with plant life, with our, Mother Earth, and that it's important that we operate from a heart space and not from an ego space of that, like, we're the best because we're a man. That's it's a different way. That's just my personal, that's who I am. I live from an ecocentric place. But I do think it's, Joe, what you said is so critical, because I think that when we are creating messaging, especially in media, which is the industry I work in, we have to be very aware of how that messaging is going to land for every person that's going to listen to it and view it. And is that going to want, is it going to want those viewers or those listeners to want to connect more deeply with humanity after viewing that or watching that piece of content? Or is it going to make them want to go into separate groups, or into like different people that are saying different things? And so that's what I'm kind of always looking at. I'm always looking at, people, identities and things like that, and sort of what we grasp onto to feel safe. And this, for me, has very much to do with mental health, because I think that a lot of times our mental health is severely impacted by us not feeling like we belong. And so,
absolutely.
And so for us to feel like we belong, often we will identify with certain groups or put ourselves in certain kind of boxes to feel more comfortable, or to have a sense of validity, a sense of identity. And I understand that that is very important for most of humanity. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. I'm with you on that too. But the thing is that what I see with that is that when we do that, there's a lot of ideological baggage that comes along with putting ourselves in groups, as well as, you know, putting ourselves in certain opinion. It can very quickly devolve to an us versus them conversation and very polarized camps. So how do we create narratives that don't do that?
I love what you share. And if I will comment just to quickly here before we also go into other comments here in a second and wrap up this amazing live, very beautiful interaction. And something that we're just literally unveiling because more amazing things going to be happening very, very soon. We have also Mel joining us. Look at you, Mel, here to support Amanda. You're amazing. Thank you.
Here to support you too, Izabela.
I'm sorry. Thank you. But I'm just saying, it's like, Malia's here, Amanda. That's awesome. Great to see your smiling face, Mel, and great comment. But one thing I want to also highlight here, which you brought up amazing points here, Amanda. One of the biggest reasons why people's mental health is being affected in the recent years, because certain cultures, even in US, are going through tremendous change, and people, as you mentioned, don't feel that they belong. They are feeling alone. They're feeling in isolation, not because of COVID, but just simply they're not accepted or feel that they're accepted as who they are, and they're not met where they are in the career path or their personal growth. And we're so quick to judge. We have such a certain expectations, how we want to be served, how we want to be talked to, that we take away the most basic human connection and opportunity, which is to just, again, show up and be there, be present, meet people where they're at in the moment, and find out ways how can we either elevate them, support them, or simply offer different opportunities or platforms that can support them on their journey. And a lot of that, I feel like loneliness is being categorized as a number one contributor also for suicide, for domestic violence, for substance abuse. So when you add also on top of that depression, anxiety, a lack of financial means or stability or security, poor relationships, poor communication, poor performance in working environment, because everything starts declining, because you never hear anything good and positive about yourself. You never been feeling like you're being supported, that you can possibly do anything. And we became, sadly, through the media, amplifiers on this interesting phenomenon. In 2001, 2002, early in 2000s was a research done where will be 10 people in the room and something negative will be shared. How many of those people will go outside the room and share with somebody? At that time was so eye-opening and shocking. There will be 7 people going and sharing something negative that occurred. Doesn't matter how small fragment of information it is or overall whole picture, but was so much readily shared, which was so shocking, right? Because we're so prone for negativity and conditioned. And my joke today is when they ask from 10 to 10, I'm like, it's a 9.25, meaning even if that one person will not necessarily disclose everything, at least will alluded to something negative happened. And how do we absorb negativity? How do we focus and get stuck on negativity? That is also something that we have opportunity to shift. Not only how we portray this, how we share, but also what we select and absorb and what we listen to. And I love what Mel was sharing about here. The context is so important and sense of belonging in order to make a difference. That's why people are craving communities. That's why they're craving opportunities that they can also be part of something where they can truly belong. And more to come with all of the things that we're creating.
Yeah. I wanted to say Mel is the context of our sense of belonging is what makes the difference, because Mel was 100% correct in that as human beings, we are natural dividers and we are also natural uniters. So it all has to do with context, Mel. Exactly. Yes, precisely. So yes, it's the context of our sense of belonging is what's going to make the difference and is what makes the difference. Yeah. Thank you.
And we're also having beautiful things from Linda saying that people need to feel safe and heard, absolutely, and also accepted and offered something, right? Not only just now we heard you and we're just going to ignore you, but what are we offering? And we're also seeing here how important it is to promote kindness and compassion, absolutely. And then also how it's important to express the deep gratitude, and that is absolutely true. And I'm sure, oh my goodness. Thank you, Linda. She's excited to see what's coming and what is coming next. We're going to definitely share more. But the beauty for all of you participating this evening is that obviously you asked some really great questions and you also made some phenomenal statements. Mm-hmm. So it's not feeling anymore that we're in a small echo chamber, Amanda and I.
I don't want that, please. I want everyone involved in this conversation.
But it's also good to hear that others are seeing what's needed and they're willing to put themselves out, put their leadership hat from Linda and Matthew and Anthony and Mel and Joe and others, and anybody else that we're virtually paying attention to this or going to be watching. I know it's a little bit different times that we started this, but obviously it's just the beginning, because we know, Amanda and I know deeply, that these next 2 months are most crucial and pivotal for millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
We see the highest suicide rates during these holiday times, during these last 2 months, from various reasons, because they're usually winter in the different parts of hemisphere, shorter days, many attributes when start many people to be affected, and they feel it's no other way and it's no other outlet. And from last year, from these lives that I did in year before, and from my past work and Amanda's past work and expertise that we accumulate and have, we've seen the pattern, and we want to break that pattern. We want to offer a different framework, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yes. Please. Now.
So we're hoping to see you guys with us again, and then we'll look forward to your comments, engagements. Feel free to reach to both of us, because we're putting collectively something really absolutely amazing. And of course, we can't do it by ourselves. So as they say, take a village to make something magical happen. And we're absolutely eager to hear some of your great comments, perspectives, and maybe even piece of advice. Right, Amanda?
Yes. and Linda, I know, I hear you. It's, my heart hears you. And yeah, it is lonely. And so you're coming to work with us. That's it.
Yes, you're going to be part of the community, and you're not going to be lonely.
No.
It's a beautiful thing. We're going to create a ripple effect where other peoples can come in, because we know how many people are suffering from people that are involved in as a first responders with horrible, crazy situations, and then their own personal issues. That it's never ending, because that's the nature of their 24/7 life and work, right? And some people just simply say, Izabela, I just needed to catch the breath.
Yeah.
So we're going to have opportunity not only to catch the breath, but also feel supported, and in the same time, tap into your power and your resilience, and show you how amazing, capable, strong you are. And then also, what can you do with your creativity to foster amazing healing opportunity for others?
Yes. And you guys, I just want to say thank you to Rob Polon too. Rob was here a little bit earlier.
Yes. I'm sorry, Paul. I forgot to mention your name.
That's okay. No, and Izabela, I wanted to remind everybody that we're going to be doing, Izabela and I are going to be doing this next Thursday on my YouTube channel, and then and some Thursdays on Instagram, and also Thursdays here on LinkedIn. So we are going to be doing it on all different platforms to see to impact as many people as possible.
Absolutely. We will be testing some things out, because we want to see how everything is going to work. And Rob, sorry that you back. Great to have you back. Yes. Sorry that I forgot to mention you, but I just want to say we opportunities to also not only be present in different media, but also to see where's the ways and opportunity to disseminate and reach as many users, and then also to get chance to all of us to get together.
Yeah, this is wonderful. It's been so nice to have everyone come and everyone that you listed, and just thank you, Linda Duncanson. It's just so wonderful to see people responding and being here and being involved in this conversation. That's imperative. That's what this whole thing is about. I want is can we please have everyone get involved in this conversation? I mean, it's a beautiful space.
And Amanda and I will have a guests. We're going to have also other experts sharing their perspective from different groups. So this is going to really help us. We are having also some really beautiful share here from Aiden. Thank you so much.
Can you read it? Can you read it, Izabela?
I feel like it is sometimes okay, I will do it from here. Sorry, because it's hard. I feel like sometimes there is like a double layer of empathy and understanding, like not just the understanding of why someone's feeling down or stressed about something, but also the understanding that it sometimes takes to understand the method or style on confronting the someone uses to try and help someone.
Yeah.
And sometimes people see it as insensitive just because based of their own experiences it works better that way. Sorry if I sounded incoherent right now. Not used to put these things through. No problem, Aiden. You beautifully expressed that, and I'm so glad actually you brought this message right before we end, because it's so true that we have to have the shared understanding, seek to understand, ask questions, listen, give a people space, exercise true, genuine empathy, compassion, and kindness, and the world will be much more magical. We're also having great comment here. Quite all right. I'm used to it. Okay, based on my previous comment. Okay, Rob. I hope I'm not in your black book. And then we're also having Mel here, a very important convoy, Izzy Kazi. Oh my God, you got us.
Mel calls us Izzy and Kazi.
Yeah, well, our nickname. So that's so
love it.
funny, and they rhyme. So, oh my God, Mel, now you're now in trouble.
Thank you.
On that positive note, until the further notice, the next Thursday, everybody be safe. Have a fantastic evening, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you, millions.
Thank you so much.